exciting. I don't want to. What's that?
It's another article on umpires.
You're opposed to
And
that?
the movement to the electronic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Well, send it to me.
okay. I'll do that.
Good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. We're a community of children, youth, and adults bound not by creed, but by covenant. My name is Bill Brock. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm a member of the celebrant team. Our church is located on lands that are the traditional territory of the indigenous Iowa, Sac, and Fox peoples. We all arrived here from someplace else. So other than those of us descended from those indigenous peoples, we all arrived here from someplace else. As we enter this space, let us recommit to understanding the history of the land it occupies and to owning our part in the work of education, reparation, and healing. If you are here with children, feel free to keep them seated with you or to take advantage of our We Worship space in the back of the auditorium, where you and your child may play quietly with toys and books. Please silence your cell phones during the service. If you're joining us via Zoom, please make sure your mics are muted throughout the service. Our speaker this morning is Dylan Q. Dylan is a native son of Des Moines and joined First Unitarian in 2021. They have delighted in learning from the wisdom and grace of this community and meeting the people who are part of it. Dylan works professionally in the logistics industry as part of a small consulting firm. In their off time, they enjoy poetry, doom metal, and the company of their partner, Birch, and dog, Daisy. After the service at 11 a.m. in Griffin Hall, all are welcome to attend a forum inviting you into conversation about today's service theme. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means that we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone Because we are companions on the journey, we grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. Our gathering song this morning is number 1028 in the Teal hymnal, "The Fire of Commitment."
Good morning. I'm Laura Berardi. I'm a member of your pastoral care team. Take a moment to settle fully into your seat. Let your breathing soften. As you are comfortable, you can let your eyes gently close. From this place of stillness, let us enter into a time of meditation, reflection, or prayer. A church is not a building, but a community. As a community of human hands and human hearts, we come together to share our laughter and our tears, and to bear witness and minister to one another as we struggle with life's sorrows and celebrate life's joys. Please keep Michael Lauer and his family in your thoughts this week. Michael remains at Methodist Hospital downtown. He is not up to visitors or phone calls, but Michael and his family are grateful for the many cards, texts, and emails. They are very much appreciated. Teresa Miller would enjoy calls and cards. She is recovering from a hip fracture and COVID. We have a card at the table for you to sign. Let us now share the names of anyone we know who could use some special care and attention. You may call the name out loud, or if you're joining us on Zoom, type it into the chat. As we share these names, may the love of this community hold them all. May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May the work of our hands and hearts support, aid, and comfort all those who hunger or thirst for food or water, justice or freedom. May we never look away when we are needed. May those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed. May those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. We light 3 candles this morning, one for the joys and sorrows shared aloud, one for those shared in writing, and one for those held silently among us.
The mission of First Unitarian Church is to grow ethically and spiritually, serve justly, and love radically. Your gifts of time and presence and money make all of this possible. The offering is a budget line item. It's also a symbol of gratitude for this community and a symbol of the generosity that defines it. Every week, half of the collection given in the service goes directly to the wider community to support our Faith in Action partners. Let's Talk collaborates with the Des Moines Public Schools to help young people resolve conflict. Hawthorne Hill works with unhoused families toward permanent, affordable homes. You may give through the plate as it passes or give online. Thank you. Thank you, Nick, and thank you to Sarah and Louise for pitching in and helping. Our first reading is Daylight by Iowa Poetry Prize winner Julie Hansen. When people are first born, they look like they've recently failed. They come covered in blood and shrieking. Even their skin is disheveled, their hair's a wet mess. With any luck, the mother isn't interested in that. She gives no thought to a life previous to this one, the one nested on her stomach and propped up. She cares to be held in its unblinking eyes. Your next best change is in the stranger's face. Better put away your handheld device. You may never know how your mother felt about you all those years ago. You may never get it right with the people you're related to. The bricks on the street are glistening, and the clouds are high. And now, a musical interlude with Nick Westfall and Bruce Martin playing Andante for horn and piano by Richard Strauss. Our next reading is an excerpt from Original Blessing by theologian Matthew Fox. When humans cannot welcome the cosmos and reverence it as the blessing it is, then we will fight it. In the long run, we are our own worst victims, victims of what Frederick Turner calls an introspective civilization. We are without cosmos, without myth, without ritual worthy of the name. No wonder we are cosmically sad, cosmically lonely, cosmically destructive in our military plans to rain death on the rest of creation we know. The earth can no longer tolerate the sin of introspective religion. I believe it is important, in order to understand both the appeal and the tragedy of too introspective spirituality, to grasp the critical distinction between an inner journey and an inward one. An inner journey is altogether healthy and necessary. We take inner journeys into ourselves, into our loved ones, into trees, into Mozart's music, into death, into pain and suffering and injustice, ideally all the time. To pray is to enter in, thus to make an inner journey. But a person who takes an inward journey looks only into themselves. For God or for spiritual refreshment, it is introspection. There lies the death of cosmic spirituality, the death of cosmos, and the excessive quest for personal salvation. The world does not need more inward journeys, but there are no limits to the inner journeys we can make.
Good morning, everybody. There's a saying passed down from early American Universalists that the last sinner will be dragged kicking and cursing into heaven. The welcoming gospel of the Universalist Church stood in stark contrast to the wrathful God of the 18th century Puritans and to the stuffy theology of the New England Unitarians. They preached a God of a greater love that could embrace all of humanity. There's a commonality between this view of heaven and a strictly atheistic one. If you believe that salvation is universal, there isn't any reason to spend your life worrying about it. If heaven does not exist, then it also is not really your problem. In both cases, we are left with this one life. And what should we do in this wild and precious world we get to visit but once? In an essay on poetry and prayer, Mary Karr describes how she began attending church because her son wanted to go and see if God was there. 2 years ago, I started looking for a church for a similar reason. I had quit drinking about 6 months prior and was coming out of the haze of early sobriety. I was looking for a connection to something greater than myself. I thought perhaps God was the answer. I didn't know exactly where to find God, but I had an idea of where to start looking. So I started Googling for gay-friendly churches in Des Moines. I met and visited with some lovely and progressive Christians, and I could feel some kind of a spiritual resonance there. It was a new and exciting feeling for me. However, after a few visits, I realized this was a book club with only one book to read. There was only one story of meaning that they would be telling, and I wanted more. I remember hearing about First Unitarian when I was a child. My parents had attended from time to time and spoke highly of this congregation. I remember hearing about the multicultural haven of diverse thought and excellent potluck food. I remember my dad would describe the governing theology as, I'm okay, you're okay, God's okay, or not. And so I came to find God, or not. What I found in Unitarian Universalism was a language for and a method of engaging with spirituality, which has helped me understand my own faith. I found a rich tradition of ministers, theologians, and lay people working to bring greater justice and religious liberty into the world. A faith which reinvents itself time and time again in accordance with new ideas and new values. A church which seeks to build a beloved community of people who want to improve this world that we're born into. What I'd like to talk about today are the values of our liberal religious heritage and what we can learn from them. Our spiritual ancestors had a bold vision which rejected the traditional teachings on sin and damnation which had governed Christianity for centuries. They insisted that God is bigger than our human prejudices and errors. I see these same values emerging in our church and our movement today. I see them in the proposed changes to Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, where they say we must replace systems of power and oppression with ever-widening circles of solidarity and mutual respect. It follows another traditional Universalist precept: no souls overboard. When we follow this Universalist impulse, we endeavor to bring justice to an unjust world. We try to envision a society which recognizes the dignity and value of every human person. We strive to build the kingdom of God. Because I am the kind of studious Poindexter which this movement attracts, I began studying the history of our religion. I find a great deal of inspiration in the Universalist branch of our family tree. It is a uniquely American faith and was uniquely responsive to the time in which it grew up. By embracing the redemptive story of Christ without reservation or condition, they were able to grow beyond the anxiety of sin and salvation. They were able instead to wonder how to live in this beautiful and broken world. When I speak about the kingdom of God, I am speaking to something that is deeply within this world rather than beyond it. Theism is not necessary to my position, so you may discard that if you prefer. And should you object to the kingdom language, you could instead refer to the Commonwealth of God, which is a charming turn of phrase from Universalist theologian Forrest Church. When I refer to the kingdom of God, I am thinking about a process rather than a concrete destination. The process of widening the circle of solidarity to its maximal diameter and making good on our commitments to justice. I can't define what this world will look like. From my position here and now, this future seems impossibly far away. From the Christian perspective, Matthew Fox describes bringing the kingdom of God as a concrete effort to make right, to make just, to mend creation when it becomes broken by injustice and human violence. Our responsibility, he says, is a cosmic one. We are a part of the universe. Now, in a future sermon, I'll be detailing my theory that all progressive religious traditions eventually end up inventing Unitarian Universalism. What I take today from Fox and others is that the role of God in all of this is to call us to something greater than we can envision. The promise of a world that is barely conceivable to us now. When I was deepest in my addiction, the idea of living without alcohol was unimaginable. I was certain that was the only way that I would be able to live and survive in this world. I am blessed to be standing here today, living a life with more love and more joy than I could have ever dreamed of. Whether you call this God, hope, the spirit of love, or just dumb luck, this is the project we are involved in. We are trying to make an impossible world. And I have come to believe that sometimes, if you are very lucky, those impossible things can happen. Unfortunately, this does not mean they will happen without difficulty. I find it useful to think of ourselves as the midwives to the process of birthing this new world. Even as we strive to bring it into being, we may not live to see its full flourishing. In all likelihood, we get the birthing process itself. We get the world covered in blood and shrieking. We get disheveled skin and wet hair. It's a difficult and frightening and inspiring process. I think about the lines from Julie Hansen. The mother gives no thought to a life prior to that one. She cares to be held in its eyes. This perspective is constructive for understanding what is important in our work and the challenges we will face. In our time, we will see the contractions and the birthing pains of ending historical injustices. Sometimes it may look like a violent reaction to the erosion of white supremacy, or a transphobic reaction to changing ideas about gender in society. Sometimes it will require of us a personal reckoning beyond what we find comfortable. It may require a change in ourselves beyond what we think is possible. You can choose your preferred parable to understand this here. Planting a mustard seed, shopping for pearls. There's a ground-up camel passing through the eye of a needle situation I read about. The kingdom of God is not one which fits comfortably into our rational minds. It requires a cosmic perspective and a dynamic one. The new Article 2 language regarding transformation says, openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. I fear sometimes that our congregations may become so concerned with getting things right at home that we miss this broader vision. Although we have, by and large, abandoned the theological concern for salvation, we may find ourselves bound up in this inward focus. We may find ourselves staring long into our own navels, hoping that the time will eventually be right for something more to happen. We may neglect to connect our inner practice to that greater vision of the world. We risk mistaking our covenantal relationship for a convental one, shut off from the world. The earth, as Fox says, can no longer tolerate the sin of introspective religion. Put another way, I don't think this is a religion you can practice only within the walls of a church building. I believe in the power of this community and this tradition to change the world. I see it in the work we do and in the mission we serve. I find it in the hands and hearts of all who gather here in hope. My faith calls me to believe that we can bring an impossible world into being. Whether you believe that is through the power of God or the power of community, this faith transcends the current order of things. It is greater than that's how it's been and that's how it always will be. This faith in all its crying and screaming and struggling to be born is the kingdom of God. Universalism has always been about more than just an afterlife. Over time, it itself came to outgrow the Christianity which it was born out of. We see this in the Universalist symbol with the offset cross and how we today regard it in our own sources of wisdom. The Universalist minister, Dr. Tracy Pullman, gave a sermon in 1946 saying, "Here then is a suggested pattern of the new religion. It is greater than Christianity because it is an evolutionary religion, because it is universal rather than partial, because it is one with the spirit of science and is primarily interested in bringing out that which is godlike in man." When I think about what is godlike in humans, I think of love. I think of interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. This is a church and a movement which embraces those values. It's a place that I could come to understand myself in relation to God and to the Spirit of life. That Spirit brought me to a place I never thought possible in my life. And I believe it can do the same for this world we share. Thank you. Our closing song will be number 155 in the gray hymnal, Circle Round for Freedom. And I believe that we are going to sing it through twice.
And just a reminder, the melody is the middle line. And we're going to move it up just a little bit, about a third. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole.
These words are from a Universalist pamphlet published in 1945. Why speak theologically? Because our world is crying for a religion of today. It demands a church with a liberal, forward-thinking theology that will set forth universally valid pronouncements, a church that is truly universalist.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love.
The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet. Go in peace.